Our next guest is the first Black woman to co-found a unicorn company with startup Zoom Pizza, which raised $375 million from SoftBank. Now, to put that in context, Black women draw just 0.2% of all venture capital funding annually. Joining us now to talk about her next venture is Julia Collins, now the founder and CEO of Planet Forward, a regenerative food business. Julia, thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to have another Julia on the show.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here, Julia.
So I want to hear about Planet Forward and your move into this food business. But first, I want to talk about the work you're doing to fight racism and to help companies fight racism. I know you've been working with entrepreneurs, working with executive teams, and you just spoke to Stanford Business School about this. How are you advising companies to build anti-racism into their businesses?
You know, I'll start by saying this, that the power that the United States has as an authority in the world comes not just from our economic and military might, but really from this idea that we have built a democracy founded upon principles of liberty, justice, freedom, and equality. It is such a powerful idea, but, you know, Julia, it is still very much still just an idea. And I think that's what many Americans are waking up to right now. Although it's been the case for centuries, racism and white supremacy are really threatening the fabric of our democracy and our legitimacy as a world superpower. And so what I would say is these structures are not just bad for Black people like me, they're bad for all Americans who want to live in a free and equal society with power in the world. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? And the work that I'm doing with founders, with organizations, is really to move from intent to action.
Now, I think it's very interesting the way you took action in the way you were raising money for your new company. Your last company, you raised money from SoftBank, huge VCs. This time, you had a very different approach, raising a smaller amount of money, but intentionally from investors who are women and people of color. Tell me about that idea and how that helps address the cycle of investment and innovation in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I think the question is, what power do each of us have to yield more equality? And one of the things that founders do have power over is the way that we capitalize our companies. And so if my job is to create a successful company and return value to my shareholders, then why don't I make an attempt to create more equality amongst those shareholders? That's the question that I asked myself. And that's why I committed to raising a seed round where women and people of color were highly represented on my cap table. And I was successful in doing that.
Hi, Julia. Good morning. It's John Fort. Great to have you. So as we're going through this period of civil unrest and asking a lot of questions, very often, too often, I hear people conflating racism with capitalism, suggesting that they're necessarily joined. So as someone who has innovated, as you have, and you've built wealth in a capitalist system, how would you frame this issue?
I understand the question, and I fundamentally don't believe that justice, freedom, and equality are at odds with capitalism. Those ideas are completely separate. I think the question is, how do we work within the framework of capitalism to redistribute wealth and create better economic, social, and health outcomes for folks that have been systematically left out of the picture? That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about addressing structural racism.
And when you say redistribute wealth, do you really mean redistribute wealth, or do you mean redistribute opportunity? The issue, as I see it, is that in a capitalist democratic system that's working well, everybody is viewed as having great potential within the economy, and their full potential ought to be realized. And they need the opportunity through education, through the right social foundations to be able to do that.
Yes, it's very much the case that in our country, wealth is tied to opportunity. But there's a great myth that we've been operating under, which is the myth of scarcity. This myth that more for someone else means less for me. And in fact, it's just the opposite. When we're talking about freedom, more freedom for another person creates more freedom for me. And the same is true for equality. So when I'm talking about radical wealth redistribution, some of the things that I'm really talking about are investing in BIPOC founders, investing in Black-led and non-white-led organizations, and really putting our capital to work to support the kinds of organizations and structures that lead to more equality, not less.
And Julia, I want to hear about your new company and why you decided to focus on this regenerative food space. Tell us a little bit about the two business models that are going to be operating here.
Absolutely. So it probably comes as no surprise to you or to the viewers today that 23% of greenhouse gas emissions globally are coming from our food system. And I will tell you that there is no silver bullet to the climate crisis, but certainly addressing our food system is a great place to start. And what we're doing at Planet Forward is really tackling climate change by making it easier for anyone to bring a climate-friendly food and beverage product to market. We're doing that through our own brand called Moonshot Snacks, which is launching with a line of climate-friendly crackers later this year. And we're also doing that by building a software tool that allows brands to identify suppliers and ingredients based on a variety of sustainability criteria, including measures of climate friendliness.